So here's a match in the VK2001D, which is basically a Panzer III, but with the interleaving road wheel suspension, steel torsion bar. It plays basically the same way. It's a very similar tank. A lot of people say it's a bit worse in game, but I haven't really noticed a huge difference. They're about the same. The Panzer III is one of my favourite tanks, both in game and actually out of all the tanks I served in World War II, so got to have more variants of it, of course. Platooned up with the French Army's B1 and Rennerd in his Marder 3. As usual, I'm sort of heading towards town. Even though I don't have the armor or the gun I would on some of my higher tier mediums, it's still a useful place to be. My platoon mates are heading to the hill just to the north of me. And I'm trying to look for shots on anything that's going to cross this gap. There we go, here's our first vehicle. I get 2 shots into him before he melts. And then this guy gets lit. I don't want to get hit by half their team, so I back off slightly. T-40 suicides out into the open, and then I've got this guy I want to chase down. You can see this thing's pretty quick. Small and zippy, much like the Panzer III. Same gun, same armor scheme I think, maybe slightly worse on the front. It might not have the, yeah, I don't think it has the 80mm applique plate, or 80mm total. I think it's 30mm plate plus 50 initial front armor. So it's a bit lighter armored, but it's about as mobile. Same gun, same turret, a lot. So I managed to get a tracking shot into him, and he gets finished off by a French army. He was derping in that thing. Fortunately, he blew up Rennerd. This is where I remember that T-40s actually do have frontal armor. You can see the gun, although it's fairly accurate for Tier 4 standards, it's still nowhere near as easy to hit targets at long range as it is on my Tier 10 mediums. I'm so used to the high velocity guns where shells arrive almost instantly that trying to lead targets with this thing is a nightmare. BT-7 appears to have a very short gun. I'd almost say it was maybe a 76 dirt gun, but I'm not sure if it's even available to the BT-7 in World of Tanks. I can't remember. So there's those 2 enemy TDs, or rather the enemy TD and the Valentine, sorry, over there, and the T-40 is still up in front of me somewhere. T-40's making a run for our base. You can see he's got the long gun there, not the dirt gun, which means trouble for me actually. Take a blind shot and then get tracked and then lose my gun. So hit by the Marder, the Valentine and the T-40 all around the same time. As soon as I'm repaired, I get out of there. I don't want to be hit again. It might actually kill me. Unfortunately, I don't have a repair kit for that gun, so I'm stuck with terrible accuracy and terrible aim time for the rest of the game. But it just forces me to play a bit better, a bit more cautiously. So you can see here I'm trying to keep just this little bit of hill between myself and the T-40. Trying to pop up and spot. Right here I notice we've got 3 tanks AFK in our cap circle. Jihad, the M3 Lee, and the Panzer IIIA, I think it is. Yeah, Panzer IIIA. Enemy Locust has never actually been spotted. So Valentine's shooting APCR at me now. I want to deal with the Marder first. It's a much bigger threat. It can actually one-shot me off the high roll now. 38T reverses into me, which throws my aim, but thankfully the Marder is a terrible shot. This 38T very nearly got me killed though. So we lose our Locust, the enemy Locust, who finally makes himself known. immediately after ours kills the enemy LTP. So still an issue 85B to worry about. The thing has excellent view range and an excellent gun for tier, good camo too. And it's only myself and 38T who are outside the base. 3 bots and an Artie still in there. I skirt around the edge of the forest to try and keep some camouflage between myself and the other team. You can see the shot that ammo racked me there on my right side, right on the midline. The main ammo racks are stored in the side panniers, right under the turret ring. Same with most German tanks. So I get a couple shots off at the Locust, but between the broken gun and just the low velocity shells, well, comparatively low velocity shells, I have trouble hitting him. I get careless and knock down some trees. The Locust sees me, so I turn my front. He could actually pen my side, but he does have a bit of trouble with my front armor, at least unless he aims at my weak spots. And he is terrible. Well, that works. I think he rather underestimated the weight of this thing. Like the Panzer III, it is one of the heavier tanks in its tier, so ramming it is not advisable, especially not in a tier 3 light tank. So I'm heading down towards the cap. I know the 85B was the last seen here. I'm really worried about getting popped in the back by him. The other thing I'm worried about is that Artie's shotgunning me. So you can see I'm heading straight for the cover of these bushes and trees. I don't want to get hit by the 85B. And R3A finally decides to leave spawn, as does the Chiha. Those two have been sitting there the whole game. And when they realise there's a good chance they'll win, they finally move out of base. Now, I know things come up in real life that are more important in the game, but people who are AFK right from the beginning of the game surely could have hit the exit Q button and just backed out and waited for it. It's really just, it should be bannable, honestly. Especially for repeat offences. So I use the building as a screen from the 85B, and then I want to pop this guy. Let's see how bad this thing is at hitting when it's got a broken gun. I should really have sat still there. Actually, I don't know why I was moving forwards. I think I accidentally bumped my R key instead of my T key, which happens from time to time. But eventually I managed to tag that guy and move back into my cover. Let the 3A spot for me as he drives around aimlessly. So you can see the Chiha's finally found his balls. The Lee is still AFK. Now it's just a waiting game to see if the 85B turns up. Which he does, but it's too little too late. So, not a bad match. I quite like this thing. I think the reason, common sort of pubby and goon opinion, that it's a bad tank, I think the reason that's a thing is because its armour is actually thinner than the Panzer III on the whole. But, I don't know, it just seems about the same. The armour is not really the strong point of the Panzer III anyway, the mobility is. So, they're both quite nice little tanks, and I'm quite happy to have both of them.